she says she wants.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Vivienne Benesch, producing artistic director of PlayMakers Repertory Company, and welcome to this, our 8th episode of Virtually Viv, in which I sit down virtually with esteemed theater artists from around the Triangle and the nation to engage in conversations with amazing people about our stories, past, present, and into the future. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. For those of you joining Virtually Viv for the first time this week, there is a special treat in getting to experience it live via Zoom. Although you won't be able to speak directly to us, the chat button at the bottom of your screen is a great tool to write in any questions you might have. You can do this at any point during our conversation. It won't interrupt us. We'll be keeping an eye on the chat to pass on your questions, and we have also added the option to watch via Facebook. Unfortunately, only Zoom participants have the ability to ask questions at the Q&A at this time. So Facebookers, please make sure to register and join us on Zoom for the next Virtually Viv. Although maybe by then we will have worked it out. We'll see. As many of you know, PlayMakers is a not-for-profit theater, and during these especially extraordinary times, we look to you, our community, near and far, for support. Every gift, big and small, makes a huge difference and helps keep PlayMakers playing. It can be as simple as buying a ticket to any of our streaming productions this year, or you can always make a tax-deductible donation to PlayMakers tonight or anytime to show your support of the artists and the staff who make events like this one and all of our work possible. You can make your gift online by clicking the link that will show up in the chat or by visiting our website anytime. We are so grateful for your generous support and your commitment to PlayMakers and the work that we do. And there are so many important causes right now, so believe me, I thank you. If arts and culture is part of that, we really appreciate that. So now, I want to fill you in on the fact that a little over a year ago, as a way to honor 100 years of playmaking at Carolina and to promote the legacy of one of Carolina's favorite sons, we partnered with the Thomas Wolfe Society and the Thomas Wolfe Memorial in Asheville to administer the Thomas Wolfe Playwriting Competition. We solicited unproduced plays from around the globe that captured Wolfe's mix of highly original poetic language with personal stories rooted in geographic place. We received over 200 submissions from all over the world. And starting on Monday, we go into rehearsal for a workshop of the winning play, The Storyteller, which we'll be recording live on October 30th, and everyone will be able to enjoy from November 9th through November 15th on our streaming platform. And we are so thrilled tonight to welcome the playwriter of The Storyteller. Her other full-length plays include The Delays, Break, Less Than Three, Love Scenes, and A Portrait of the Widow Kinski. Her writing has been produced and developed around the country, including with Theater Vertigo, Seven Devils Playwrights Conference, Victory Gardens, Portland Center Stage, and beyond. She holds an MFA in writing for the Screen and Stage from Northwestern University. She's a member of the Dramatists Guild and Line Storm Playwrights and was awarded a 2019 Drammy Award for The Delays, and as we know, and are proud to say, she is the winner of the International Thomas Wolfe Playwriting Competition with The Storyteller. Please join me in welcoming Sara Jean Accuardi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I have to say, I sometimes get frustrated that my prompter does very strange things. I'm very excited by this whole prompter thing, but I apologize to my audience that it was acting up a lot. So I hope, because I really am so thrilled to have you here. And, you know, new play development is near and dear to my soul. And since coming to Playmakers 5 seasons ago, we've really sort of put it at the center of our mission and our work. And so being able to partner with the Thomas Wolfe Society and was so incredible to have an opportunity to open the scope up of plays internationally. And we really did read so many incredible stories, but yours stuck out so beautiful, like so personally and beautifully. And we're going to talk all about that. But it's a kind of wonderful opportunity to broaden the scope of what is a personal love and a love for the theater to kind of range that. Because you right now are in Portland, Oregon, correct?
That is correct. I am.
Fantastic. So, and okay, so how, we'll work a little backwards. How have you been living there for a long time, and how have the past 8 months been?
Yeah. Yes. I was born here. I was born in Portland, Oregon, and grew up here. I then moved to Chicago for school and lived in Chicago for a number of years, but moved back to Portland about 10 years ago. And it's just a place I love. It's a place I have a deep connection to. And my parents grew up here as well. It's my strong roots here. The past 8 months they've been a thing, let me tell you. As with everywhere, I know we are all going through this in different ways. Us here in Portland, we've been in the news a lot. But it's, we're doing all right. And we're a city that's going to get through this all. And the things that are happening here have been wildly exaggerated. And yeah, it's been a time for everyone. So yeah.
Well, I totally appreciate that. I also was just noting right before we started what a wonderful sort of sanctuary you seem to have for your. Are you in the attic, or is that where you write? Is that
my attic? Yeah, yeah, I like it.
Oh, so share a little bit. You were born in Portland, Oregon, as your parents as well. Tell us a little bit about your story. Start with your story before we talk about the storyteller.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born here in Portland. The path to getting into theater was pretty well paved for me. Both of my parents were from the theater world. My mother was a high school drama teacher for 35 years, I think, quite a while. And my father and her met doing theater in college. So I grew up in a house where I would be taken to the theater. There were plays on our bookshelves. This world was not difficult for me to fall into. However, I didn't really know that was the path I was going to go down. I discovered my love for it later. I had always loved theater. I had always been interested in writing, but I didn't know that was something I could do. And so it wasn't until I was in college that I really started to look at playwriting as something I enjoyed, and discovered that I really, really loved to do that. So.
And what was that first play?
Oh my goodness. Well, I will say the very first play I wrote, I was in high school, and it was a very short little, almost a sketch that I had written to get out of doing another assignment. I was assigned to write about where we thought we'd be in 10 years. And that sounded just like a terrifying prospect at the time. And so I just wrote this kind of tongue-in-cheek dialogue back and forth and turned that in to get out of doing the actual assignment. And that play found itself into a playwriting contest for young writers, which then put me in a room with actual playwrights. We could sit and watch the play development process. And it was this really eye-opening experience when I was 17. But then I still wouldn't consider myself a playwright. Playwrights were these other incredible people who did amazing things. I certainly wasn't one of those. but it was a wonderful experience. Like it was one of the best things to ever happen. And so I
Mm.
kind of set that on a shelf, and about 5 years later found myself in a playwriting class. And I, I thought I loved theater history. I loved, those were the things, dramaturgical work. That was where my interests lied. But looking forward to that playwriting class, that was the one thing I really, really looked forward to. And those days that, like, oh my goodness, they're going to read pages I wrote. That was the most exciting thing. And it took me a long time to realize that that was like, oh no, that's the thing that makes me happy, that makes me consistently happy and excited, and that I really want to do. So that's how I found my way here.
And
Yeah,
and then you actually did an MFA in
I
writing
did.
for the stage and screen at Northwestern. So what was at that point, that sort of decision? Had you determined, yes, clearly this is what I want to do with my life? And what happened there? I'm always curious in training programs around the arts, sort of what happens in those programs that shifts or forms the writer that you are or are becoming.
Mhm. That's an excellent question. Well, when I had applied to graduate school, I still at that point did not consider myself a playwright, but I knew that that was the thing I loved doing. So that was kind of it was a risk. It was like sending out this little balloon. I was like, maybe I'll apply for some playwriting programs. Who knows? Here's some examples of what I've done. And so I got into graduate school. And once I got in, I was like, oh my God, I'm in this room with actual real writers. I am an imposter among them. And talking to all my friends in my cohort now, we're like, yeah, we all felt that way. That was, we all, found ourselves in that place. And I think that writers tend to feel that way, a lot of us. Um, but how that changed my perception of being a writer and what this was is that idea of being surrounded in graduate school. You're surrounded by all these other artists who are doing the same thing and going through the same thing. And in my particular group, the voices were so incredibly different, and and exploring different things with their work. And we were learning from wonderful teachers. Rebecca Gilman was my mentor there, and she's the best.
Mm.
And it just really expanded my idea of what I could do, confirmed that people were happy to live in the worlds I created. And it was just a really wonderful experience. It was great.
So, so how would you characterize, and I'm curious if it's changed,
Uh-huh.
what those worlds are? The worlds, when you say inhabiting the worlds I write,
Mhm.
how would you describe the worlds that you write?
I tend to gravitate towards stories about people who are overlooked in general. It is the, I mean, the Storyteller is a story that is based around people who are experiencing homelessness. A lot of my plays are about people who we would pass by but not really give a second look to,
Mhm.
and trying to find large stories in very small situations. I would say
Oh, I
that's
love
the thing
that.
that I tend to gravitate to, is looking at something small and seeing uh, the epic that lives there, I guess. Um,
And that's a beautiful connection to Thomas Wolfe as well, that sort of psychological interest, the overlooked story, the narratives, the shift, sort of getting a point of view into something through so much detail that otherwise might be overlooked. Um,
Master at
uh,
that, for
in,
sure.
in many ways. So, uh, talk just a little bit more about plays that came before the Storyteller. So, tell us a little bit about there, and then what, and sort of lead us to how Storyteller started in your brain.
Yeah. So some of the plays I had written before, one of them is about teachers in a small school in the faculty lounge. So, kind of everyday people. Another one is about a woman who is one of those sample people at Costco, when we used to have people who gave us samples at Costco. Um, uh, uh, Another one is about employees at one of those little kiosks at an airport. Um, uh, so just kind of little small people in the corners of our lives who,
Mhm.
yeah, I guess that's, and all of them, I think, in a way, explore what I'm fascinated with are people who are flawed and people who, and the beauty that kind of rests there. And the
Mhm.
fact that we're all really trying our best and that we're all complicated, and there's a lot of, I'm fascinated with those gray areas and people trying to connect despite our flaws and despite our humanity, and trying to find something small and beautiful in this life that we're
Oh,
living. So,
you speak so beautifully about it. So if I were going to ask you for that sort of story pitch of what the storyteller is about, how would you describe it within this context?
yes. Oh, so it's so hard to answer these kind of questions. The storyteller is about a woman who is telling the story of a man and his daughter who are living off the grid, who are, for lack of a better word, homeless, and a man who has raised his daughter in this off the grid world, and has raised her to the point, she's 17 and she is looking outside of the world that she has been raised in and kept in, and looking to something bigger and wondering what's outside of it and what's in the world beyond this. It's loosely based on The Tempest. That was in my mind as I was writing it. And it is also inspired, again, I'm here in Portland, Oregon, and it's inspired by, there's a lot of like homeless camps and encampments along the shores of the Willamette and Clackamas River. And they are just people who like live there and have these like kind of amazing structures of tents and tarps and along the shores, and then there's these $1 million homes right next to them, and it's such an interesting juxtaposition, and such that this world where they're both aware they're there, but they look past each other, and that's kind of where I started when I was writing this play.
And on the title page, or at least from the submission version of it, you talk about uh, Thomas Wolfe sort of mining characters and stories from his own life to make sense of and comment on the world around him. And that the storyteller explores the magic and power of stories we tell ourselves, which I love. So I guess the personal question would be, was your entry personal? Was there some autobiographical part to it other than the place itself?
Mhm. Um, I mean, I think the answer to that is always yes. I'm a firm, I can't remember who said this, but writers are magpies. Someone much smarter than I coined that. And that's so true. So yes, there is a lot in this play that is plucked from my own life, people in my own life, the stories of people who I have known. The specifics of it, are fabricated, but it's a bunch of that woven together. Yeah, there's definitely some personal stuff in there. um yeah.
One of the things I love about this story is that I love the ways in which the Tempest is evoked uh, in it, and this incredibly beautiful father-daughter relationship that is vulnerable, and how external powers and forces come in to sort of shift and shape it. Uh, and was that in the seed of writing the play, was that relationship the first thing? We don't want to give up. There's some wonderful plot twists in this play as well, and you really do sort of deal with the idea of whose narrative, who owns the narrative, who gets to tell the story, and how. So I don't want to give away too much. I want everyone to come and see it, to watch it. But what was the sort of core relationship and story that started as you wrote this?
Yeah, for me, the original thought was the father and the daughter living off the grid. And I just had this image of this man and a teenage daughter living on a houseboat. And you see that here for sure. And wondering what that's like and what that relationship is like with the world. And that was the image I set out to write about. Um, Around the time I started writing this play, a story came out. It was later turned into the film Leave No Trace. But it's close to me, there's an area called Forest Park, and there was a father and his daughter living in off the grid in Forest Park for many years. And it's kind of a similar thing. I actually have not seen the movie because I'm like, that is way too similar, and I'll lock down this play first before watching that. But there's, there are stories like that, and that's where I started, was just the image of this father doing his best to raise his daughter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there is a narrator, I'll say that there's a narrator in this, who has a relationship that we don't know for a while too. That structure of having a sort of narrator who relates to the audience watching and to the story, is that a form that you've used before? Was this new for this? And what was that I'm sort of curious how that developed.
An excellent question. This is the first time I've used that form. And originally, the very, very first draft of this, she wasn't there. And I knew there was something missing. It definitely, I had this feeling about what the play was. It was not landing on the paper. And I scrapped that original draft and then just started writing in this narrator's voice. And I realized that that's the part of the play that I was interested in. And that's what helped me write the play, get to the end of the play, and finish it, and what opened up the play for me. Yeah, and that is playing with that aspect. That's something that I have not done before. And it was really fun. It was very fun to write. Yeah, and to play with that theatrical device.
Yeah. I'm just looking at Wendy Wall's comment right now. People overlook police as people. Do you think you could find a story among the police who have had so much involvement in the demonstrations in Portland recently?
That is a wonderful question. And again, when we talk about those gray areas and those that all of that, that would be a very interesting thing to tackle. It is not something that I have, but that is an excellent idea. There is a lot to mine there for sure.
I guess that is a question for any artist at this moment, sort of in this incredibly extraordinary and challenging time. Do you feel, one of the things, again, I love about the Storyteller is it actually just brings us back to relationship, and it is not political, although, as you said, though it is the bringing to life the stories that are overlooked is a political act in and of itself. But the story, do you feel like, what do you feel right now is your responsibility as an artist, as a writer, and does that dovetail with sort of what your sort of natural voice and impulses, and how has this time affected you that way?
There's a lot there. Yes. I feel it's a question I ask myself, and it's a question I come to different conclusions on depending on the day. I feel as an artist, and I think we all feel as artists, that there is so much we need to comment on, so much we need to do. There is that pressure to get it right. There is that pressure to serve the cause appropriately, and to express things and to document this moment in time. It's also so easy just to feel buried underneath it all and to feel like I have no idea what to say. When you ask about my responsibility as an artist, what I find myself, what I need to tell myself again and again is that my love of theater and my love of art comes from that feeling of connection on a human level to something, like something to be reminded that something that you are going through is not something that you are going through alone. And here's this thing that shows you something that you can see yourself in, something that something relatable. And so I think if I am to break down and simplify it, that what I think that I can do as an artist is to provide that, and maybe provide that in characters you wouldn't normally recognize that connection with, but just to remind people that they're not alone, that there are hands reaching out to them, and hopefully someone can recognize part of themselves and be reminded of their humanity, and feel seen for a second. And I think that kind of spans all political movements and things that we are going through. We always need that to an extent.
So I also have a question just in this time as an artist in the virtual. Oh, I think my internet did something strange. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh no.
Oh God. I hope it's not mine.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
I do. I hear you. You're kind of freezing in and out, but it might be me.
Hello, hello.
Hi, I can hear you. This is perfect to be happening in your question about the virtual realm. It's good timing.
Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay, and him. Oh, good. Okay, I don't see you anymore, but I'm hoping that is just good. So I was going to ask, funnily enough, ironically, about the streaming world and being an artist. We're about to start a workshop of your play where we will get to, in these Zoom, spend some time sort of working on it. Have you had that experience over these months, and what have you found to be, what has been able to be accomplished in this format for you at this point? And specifically, I guess I can ask this publicly. What is it you're hoping to learn about the Storyteller in this week that we work together?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting world we're living in now, isn't it? I have done a few Zoom readings early on, in, I believe, the beginning of May, so pretty early in this pandemic. Had one of my plays remounted on Zoom by the original cast that had done it, which was a lot of fun. And what surprised me about that experience is just because this was a group of people who had done a production of this play a year ago, and they all grabbed the script again and did it over Zoom. And it was amazing how it wasn't the same experience, of course, but the connections were there and the characters were there again. And it brought some aspect of it to life. And it was kind of magical that these actors had the ability to connect and to play these scenes together in two different spaces. And the way it echoed the original performance was really interesting to me. I've done a couple, or have had a couple Zoom readings and things like that since then. This upcoming one is going to definitely be the one with the most rehearsal and the most thought to the production quality of it that I will have experienced. And this is my first chance that I've had to workshop this play. I've had a couple readings of it, but no workshop production. And it's not a finished play to me by any means. There's things that I am trying to figure out and find out. And I feel like I'm still dealing with the ending of it. And so I know that spending this time in this workshop with these incredible artists is going to open up some doors for me that I can't open on my own. And so that's what I'm hoping to get out of it, is to really get to live in this play and really be forced to live in this play. It's going to be a solid week of rehearsals that will help me be able to explore some aspects of it that haven't ever sat right with me, that I really want to dive into.
I'm super excited for that. I mean, this is my passion, my love is to collaborate with playwrights and artists in the development of new work here. And I'm very curious. This will be the first time. So I've certainly done a number of things on Zoom now, and even directed readings and that, but to actually spend time working and changing and helping you sort of look at questions is great. And to share with the audience who's here that what you'll see, whether you watch it in the live recording or in our streaming offer when it is out, is going to be a sort of in-process reading. We are absolutely giving it what I would call high quality Zoom production values to give it some context there and some visual value to put you in the place that we want you to hear. But it is about listening to the play, and we hope that people will absolutely share their feedback as well, and their thoughts about the play, because that is always part of a process, even though the medium in which we're doing it is so very different. But to have some semblance of that, I'm excited to try to simulate that conversation that happens between an audience and artists. And even if you do watch it streaming, we'll be sending a questionnaire after the fact for you to share thoughts and ideas. I want to look to the questions here. David Madden, not surprisingly, dear David, is asking, how do you feel knowing that your play calls attention to Thomas Wolfe?
I am thrilled by that. When I first saw the call for this contest, it was on this list that me and a lot of playwrights looked through, called nycplaywrights.org, if I get it correct. And it's just a list of submission opportunities. And I would scroll through it every day to see what there is to send to. And this Thomas Wolfe thing would pass by. And I'd kind of look at it and think, I don't have a direct Thomas Wolfe adaptation or anything. I don't know. But it kept on calling to me. And I really looked into it one day. And I read Look Homeward, Angel when I was in college. It was a book that definitely stuck with me and spoke to my probably over nostalgic heart. And it was something that really stuck with me. And I thought about that call and thought about this play that I had and thought, they are not that different. This is a play about, essentially, it is about looking into your past and writing your own story and reimagining things, and looking into it and building from it. And those are both embracing your past and wanting to run away from it. And those are all things that Thomas Wolfe does so beautifully in his work. And that's the connection. And I'm just oh my goodness, so thrilled to be connected with the Thomas Wolfe Society and North Carolina and all of this. This is just such a wonderful thing. And
it's interesting because, and I think I told you this when I first read it, being here in North Carolina, that I read it and I could see it here on the waterfront, here on the coast. Here I could absolutely place this story here. So in a beautiful, even though I don't mean to take anything away from the very specific world that you are writing about there, but that to me also just resonated very much. All right, perfect. Are you ready for another heavy-hitting question?
Okay, sure.
So at the center of PlayMakers' mission is that we believe that theater has the power to transform individuals and communities. And so for an artist, I wonder, what does transformation mean to you? In what does that mean to you, and what does it mean right now?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I agree with you that more so and I'm biased here, but more so I think than any other art form, theater does have the ability to transform. It literally transforms people, actors on the stage. It
Mhm.
transforms audience members. It has me many, many, many times. Transforming a space, transforming the same space again and again and again and again. And I think, though, to answer the question broadly, um, to sit and then again, we're not doing that now, but when we get back to it, to sit in a room with people or to sit together with people if it's streaming, um, and know that you are all watching it at the same time and share an experience together and share a story together. And generally, not all stories, but most stories, start in one place and end in another. And going through that journey together, um, can't help but change you. You can't help but take a little piece away. If it's a play that you'll remember for the rest of your life, if it's a play that you think that you're going to forget an hour later, you're still take something away from that experience every time. And so little by little, it builds up and it changes who you are and it exposes you to all of these different viewpoints and all of these different voices and all of these different interpretations. When you see, I mean, Shakespeare, for example, all these different interpretations of the same play and what the people bring to it, and the fact that it changes each time, and how if you're doing the same play for a long run, the performance is going to change each time, and you're never going to see the same thing unless you are in that room or unless you have captured that moment via in our online streaming world. It's never going to be the same. And that's that's the transformative nature to me is,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's and and then what gives you hope right now?
Yeah. Well, one thing that does give me hope is when this first began, I really thought that theater was really going to be on pause, that when houses had to close, that was just going to be it. And we were going to kind of sit around and wait for them to open. And that was going to be where we were going to be for a while. And almost immediately, people discovered Zoom and started figuring out how to produce theater and how to produce plays and music and all of these different things. Artists, like, they didn't wait a week before they figured that out. Like, we were on it. And the National Theater was streaming their productions for free. And like, we were not going to be kept from this thing that we loved. And here we are. It feels like 1,000 years later, however many months later,
Mhm.
7. Yeah. And we are still doing it, and we're still doing this, and yeah, Zoom fatigue is real, and but there's these magic things that are happening. I think this reading is going to be one of them, at least. Talking with Vivienne, my god, she has some good ideas. There's really incredible art being made because artists are not going to sit around and not make art, it turns out. And I think that that's phenomenal. And also, talking about giving hope, I have to say that I got the call about this award on March 4th. And so that was 10 days before we went into a lockdown here, pretty much the entire United States. And on March 4th here in Oregon, like, there was maybe one case that happened in late February. That was our first case here. It was really small. This still seemed like something that was definitely happening other places, but not here. And I got this incredible call telling me that I had won this award, and it just came out of the blue, and it was just an incredible moment. And having this amazing thing in my life happen right before everything uh, got crazy for all of us, that has been such a it's it's been I'm so grateful for it. Every single day, I am so grateful to have this really, really wonderful thing that happened on the brink of this really crazy time. And I have, other artist friends and friends who have had similar little, like, moments of good in this moment of bad. And there are little things like that still.
Well,
Yeah.
it's such a gift to us to be able to support and work with you and do what we love to do, and make that possible in so many ways. Because, you know, it is most important that we encourage and support the artists in our communities and this country right now, for whom actually making a living at what we do is next to impossible, especially all the freelance artists out there, but many of the institutional artists who have been furloughed, who have been, you know, it's heartbreaking. So in the moments where we get to actually do the work, share the work, and be in that creative space, I do not take that for granted at all. And, you know, the submissions, just so everyone knows, the 200 plays were blind submission. We had no idea who the playwrights were. So of course, for me, discovering that it was you was also a great gift to be able to support a young emerging female playwright right now. It is one of the things that makes me happy right now. So I can't wait to start the work. Oh, I don't want to miss another question here. We have just a few more minutes. From Rachel Pollack, how much research did you do on the life and career of Aileen Bernstein in the course of writing her character?
Oh, interesting question. Not a ton. Not an enormous amount. Most of it is kind of just from like feelings and like just kind of diving into the feelings of who I think these people are. So kind of coming at it from a like a pure imagination standpoint, I guess, if that answers the question properly.
Mm-hmm. Glenn Camp is asking if we've decided on the roles and who will play them. So just so everyone knows, this is going to be filled with some wonderful PlayMakers company actors. We have Kathy Hunter Williams and Ray Dooley and Jeffrey Blair Cornell and Tia James and two of our amazing professional actor training program students, Omalade Way and Anthony August. So it's a great group, and they're all, I think, also very eager to be in the room and working next week. And I just want to do a huge call out to other members of our company who've been prepping this for a long time. Our amazing stage management team and Brandon Reed, our sound designer, who has, by nature of the fact that, you know, he's become our OBS and Zoom master for this one. And sort of, it is that moment where we're all learning things that we never knew we would need to be using. And Liz Ray and Chuck Bang and the team around this has been doing amazing work. So I will just finish by saying congratulations again, and on this award, and we can't wait to share it with our PlayMakers family, and I hope well beyond that. And while you are West Coast, I hope lots of your West Coast and other fans will get to hear and see this play. And of course, this is in development, so we can't wait to see where it goes after this, right? And as soon as the theater is back, that it goes into many productions and has that life ahead of it. I am not going to try to go back to my prompter because it failed me earlier. So I am going to improv this ending to say, oh, hang on, Sarah, it says, Sara Jean, you were such a wonderful inspiration to us all who love PlayMakers. Thank you for your time. Glenn, I couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Sara Jean, for your time. I can't wait to see you next week. And thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Bye. And to everyone else, I just want to say thank you so much for being here once again. for this episode of Virtually Viv. Tune in. Go to our website, find out about the Storyteller and how you're going to see that, but also about everything else that is going on at Playmakers, our Keeping You Company programming. We have some exciting announcements coming up soon. Some of you may have seen the announcement about our benefit reading on December 6th of Nora Ephron's Love, Loss, and What I Wore, where some amazing women from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Maren Hinkle, from Will and Grace, Deborah Messing, from The Practice, Cameron Manheim, will be joining the equally amazing women of our company to do a benefit reading in support of everything Playmakers. So tickets for that will be going on sale in just a few weeks. And we have a whole host of other amazing programming for you throughout the season. While we can't be together, we are bringing you art and humanity and stories, because we do need them to connect. So thank you for connecting with us. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Vivienne Benesch. I can't even say my name anymore. I'm Vivienne Benesch, and I'm a proud Playmaker. Good night, everyone.